You know what, you did a great job, and we really like the apartment, and we really like the community, but we just need to think about it. We just need to think it over. Every property manager and leasing consultant has heard those dreaded words, I need to think about it. And it's one of the worst responses that we can receive from a prospect because it's not a yes, and it's also not a no. What tends to end up happening with these I need to think about it leasing situations is they fall apart. They end up in that dreaded never, never land, and we never really get full closure from our prospect on whether or not they're going to take the apartment. And for us as property management professionals, this can be very, very frustrating. It's also very, very avoidable. There's some things that we can do in the first place to avoid ever being told I need to think about it or I want to think about it. And there's also some things that we can do after we hear our prospect or after our prospect tells us I want to think about it, that's going to help us hold that lease together and put us in the best possible position to follow that all the way through the end and lease that prospect that wants to think about it an apartment. In this video, I'm going to show you how to deal with those dreaded words, I need to think about it. My name's Matt Easton. I'm the founder of Leasing University. If you work in property management, please subscribe to this channel and hit notifications. It's all about you. We're here to offer you helpful tips. And if you want to lease more apartments, and by more apartments, I mean 7 times more apartments, check out leasinguniversity.com. Folks that go through our online training portal or have me come out and teach their people in a Leasing University live setting lease 7 times more apartments than the rest of the industry. All right, let's talk about I need to think about it. My first tip for you when it comes to a prospect saying, I need to think about it, is avoid that situation in the first place with value. Oftentimes when your renter says, I need to think it over, I need to think about it, it's simply because you haven't shown them enough value. A lot of times we think we're communicating the value to our prospect by talking about our features, our amenities, our location, our rent specials, or any other little things about the community when the prospect is unable to relate any of that to their current situation in their life. Just because you're showing them a list of amenities doesn't mean that they're connecting value to those amenities to them. If you want to avoid your prospect saying, I need to think about it, you need to have the right talk track starting with that very first phone call, and you need to be asking your prospects questions. Questions about their current situation. Questions about what's most important to them. You need to figure out why what they're telling you is important to them. And then as you tour the community, it's your job to select the right apartment for them and connect those dots, connect that value. You told me the kitchen was really important to you because you've got some food allergies and it's really difficult for you to go out to eat. You're gonna love this kitchen. What I love about it is the open atmosphere in this kitchen. You're gonna be able to lay your stuff out, do all of your cooking, and at the same time you can see what's going on in the living room. You're not just listing amenities, you're connecting the value to your prospect. When you help them do that, it's much easier for them to make a decision without thinking about it. Because oftentimes when they actually need to think about it, they're trying to figure out where the value is for them. Do a better job of building that value with your prospects. Next, when a prospect tells you, I need to think about it, don't react. Pause. Let's say you've done everything right on the phone. Let's say you've learned what's most important to them. You followed the Leasing University recap method when they arrive there at the property and you've had an amazing tour. And yet, when you go for the close, when you use your closing process that we taught you, they still say, you know, I really need to think about it. Every fiber in your being is going to be telling you to react. You want to do right by your customer. You want to get this lease. And our nature has us wanting to react. So many times I see property managers, when they're being told, I need to think about it, immediately jump in and come up with reasons why that person shouldn't think about it. They come up with, well, you know, we've got this special and it's going to end in a week and somebody else is going to take the apartment from you. And is there anything we can do right now to, help you make that decision? It's the worst thing that you can do. It actually drives your prospect away. What I would like you to do is not react. I want you to calmly pause. Just take a few seconds just like that. Don't jump in. This is your time to think about what the next thing you're going to say is. Please don't just jump in and start talking over them. Pause. Now that you've paused and you've slowed the conversation down, I want you to acknowledge them with a softener. Here's what I mean by that. Now, when we hear an objection like, I need to think it over, our prospect is expecting us to push back. They're expecting us to say, well, why don't you want the apartment? Or did you know about our specials? Or what can I do to get your business? You're simply going to pause and you're going to acknowledge with a softener. They've been in enough sales situations that they know when they tell somebody they need to think about it, they're likely going to enter into some sort of confrontation with the salesperson. Don't put yourself in that position where they're thinking of you as a typical salesperson that's going to be confrontational with them. We're going to flip that entire expected interaction on its head. So what we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge what they just said with a softener. Basically, we're going to let them know it's okay for them to think about it, that there's going to be no confrontation from us, that we're not going to be putting additional pressure on them. It goes something like this. So you might say something like, that's totally fair, or that totally makes sense, or I agree with you completely that you need to think about it. You want to disarm them. You want to take that situation and flip it upside down, and they're going to go, wow, this is not my usual type of interaction that I'm dealing with. This person doesn't sound anything like the other apartment community that was trying to push me into renting the apartment. Wow, they must be really confident in the fact that this is a great apartment community and this is a great apartment. We're going to pause. That makes a lot of sense. Or, that's totally fair. Or, I think that's a great idea to think about it. This is an important decision for you. It's just a little softening statement that's going to disarm our prospects and allow them to feel okay about what they just said. Because if you don't disarm them, they're going to be confrontational and they're going to push back on you. And that's the last thing you want. You want to be their trusted advisor, not their pushy salesperson. Which brings us to the last piece. I want you to clarify their why. We want to understand why they need to think about it. We want them to trust us enough to open up and give us their reasons of why they need to think about it. You want to be with your prospect every step of the way. The last thing that you want to do is fall out of rapport with them or fall out of trust to where they don't trust you enough to explain why they're having second thoughts or why they need to think about it longer. We want to clarify the why behind them not wanting to make a decision right now. Again, your typical property manager, your typical leasing agent is going to push back on them with things like, well, we've got a promotion, things like we've got a special. And they're never going to take the time to understand their prospects why. And they're going to end up sounding really cheesy and in some cases really sleazy, saying things like, well, hey, you're going to lose the apartment. It's you snooze, you lose. And hey, I could give you a week free if we make the decision right here, right now. Don't be that leasing consultant. You want to be the confident, professional, trusted advisor that really wants to understand what's going on in their prospect's mind. So you want to pause, soften, and then clarify their reason for wanting to think about it. It might sound something like this. You pause, and then you say, That totally makes sense. Can you help me understand the reason behind why you need to think about it? Just come right out and ask them to clarify their reasons. Most of the time, they're going to end up giving you something that is something you can work with. Well, I'm not sure about the school districts, or, I really love the apartment, Matt, but I just really wasn't sure about being on the first floor. Or, there's 2 other communities that I'm going to look at this afternoon, and I want to see if they have a better fit for my lifestyle than your place here. No matter what the situation is, it can't hurt you to understand the why behind why they need to think about it, because now as a professional, you can dig into things like, well, let's look at a unit on a higher floor. Was there anything that I failed to show you today that maybe matched up with some things that you were looking for that you were hoping to see at the other 2 communities? If you just simply apply pressure when they say, I need to think about it, it's going to be a huge turnoff to your prospect, and you're literally going to be driving them to those other communities. So the next time you hear, I want to think about it, instead of reacting, instead of challenging your prospect, and please don't start throwing promotions at them at that point or start making them paranoid that they're going to lose the apartment. I want you to pause. I want you to add a softener. Hey, that makes perfect sense. And I want you to ask them to clarify their why. Can you help me understand what it is exactly that you need to think about it? Can you help me understand the reason why behind why that you want to think about it a little bit more? This is going to help you so much. I hope you've subscribed to the channel. Please, whatever questions you have, leave them in the comments section below. I would love to read every single one of your questions. I promise I'll respond to every single one of them. My name's Matt Easton. I'm the founder of Leasing University. Until the next video, I want you to be great, and I want you to get those leases. I'll see you soon.